What in the hell is going on? The list of dead bodies, black bodies, brown bodies, trans and gay bodies, filled in our streets, littering the news, is too numerous to count and growing. The excruciating poverty in which far too many of our children live, the devastating reality that we invest more in war than in infrastructure or schools, the frightening anger and rage roiling in the halls of government, all of this driving a wedge between us, polarizing the country as those with power vilify one another and violate the vulnerable. And the ways that too many people of faith are complicit with our silence, quaking in the face of what can certainly be overwhelming, endorsing the status quo by not using our prophetic voices to paint a picture of a preferred reality. What in the hell? The prophet and musician Marvin Gaye sang, "Makes me want to holler, throw up both my hands." I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home. Sometimes I feel like a stranger in a strange land. Sometimes I feel like an alien in this nation of vitriol and violence, of resentment and racial strife, of apathy and anger and toxic politics and tension. Sometimes I feel like we've all been exiled to Babylon, captured by the warring nature of our highest and best selves and the sinking sense that there is just too many battles to fight, too many enemies with whom to be in opposition. Sometimes far too many of us feel like surrender is our only option. That or deportation to the dominant worldview as our only choice. In Cadences of Home, Preaching Among Exiles, Walter Brueggemann says we have three options when we are in exile. We can assimilate to the madness and adopt a worldview foreign to our soul's dream. We can, in the territory of the beast, despair in what feels like the absence of the holy, or we who would refuse assimilation and eschew despair can respond with what he calls fresh, imaginative, theological work. He's calling us to theological recasting of our traditions in ways that take into account our current reality while aligning ourselves with God's newness. He's calling us to get the story straight. I love the way he writes about this, but I have to admit, I have to break it a little bit down for myself and do a little translation. From my point of view, what we need in these trying times is a new practical theology and new faith practices that name the disease and the cure in order to come home once again to our truest selves, to heal our souls and to heal our world. We need an interreligious, multi-ethnic, intergenerational movement of architects ready to create the world we want. And we must do this in partnership with one another. If we don't, it won't work. We must do it with space and grace and latitude, allowing each other to listen to the speech of the holy in our own language, respond to the holy with the symbols and the rituals that make sense to us, allowing each other to move and groove in the space of the holy without restriction and impingement. And we must do this work with a humility that admits that we don't know all the answers, because we don't. We just don't know enough about God to limit God. How dare we? We need to approach our God and each other like grown-ups who know the one true religious expression is love. In other words, to find our way home, we need a theology and an ethics and a practice of the beloved community. Love. That's what the elder was writing that Chad read to us so beautifully today. The writing is lofty and gorgeous. I read one commentator who said, it shocked me, but they said, and this love that's being written by in the Johannine community is only for Christians. Don't presume that it is universal. Can you just imagine the God of love saying, this is just for you? No. The writing is gorgeous and lofty and space-making and invitational. Those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. You can hear in the imagery the sense of space and location and residence. You can hear the hearkenings of home. God resides in love, makes a space in the places where love is. Love is the container, the holding space, the arms in which God hangs out. Because God is love. Now, some of you in the room don't do the God thing, and I want you to know I don't care. I don't. Somebody cares, call your mom. I don't. I know you know how to do the love thing. So let's talk about the love thing. Let's talk about what would happen if love was our only creed. What if love was the way and the truth and the life? What if we examine our most precious religious convictions and traditions through the lenses of radical love, welcome, and justice, rather than fear and judgment and punishment? I think wars would end. I think people would share their resources. I think these mass shootings would stop. I think old people would be valued and young children would be cherished, and we would not frown at the sounds of the babies in the sanctuary. I'm just saying. I believe the children are our future, but shut your child up, please. I don't know. I think everybody would care for the earth with tenderness. I think everyone, no matter their gender or their sexual orientation or their gender performance or their occupation or their racial ethnicity, would be welcome in every religious community in the world. I love the idea of that. I think we would each of us would respect each other's holy frame, and compassion would be epidemic. Justice would be the norm, and everyone would have enough. No kidding. I'm offended at the God that some of us have created. I can't work for that God. I can't work for a racist, sexist God who created white supremacy and homophobia. I can't work for a God that's capricious or unjust or unethical. I don't want to work for a God who's easily manipulated by my offerings, and if I say the right prayer, my territory will be increased. Please. I can't work for a God who thinks women should be quiet in church. What? How's that going to work? Adrian can't pray, Elisa can't pray. We just have to go someplace and sit down and be quiet. Are you kidding me? I can't work for a God who, if I put 10% of my offering in the offering plate, I'm going to get $1 million at the end of my lifetime. I just can't do it. And I don't think that God exists. I don't think so. What would happen if we put love in conversation with race and class and the economy? What would happen if we put love in conversation with the environment, with questions of war and peace? What if no matter our spiritual practice, no matter our faith story, no matter our tradition, we started with this simple creed: God is love. Say it with me. God is love. God, flip it. Love is God. That works. a simple creed, a guiding premise, a starting place, maybe an ending place, a way to dismantle and disrupt the ways religion is diseased, a pathway to creating the world we want. God is love. Love is God. Love defeats fear. Fear decreases our humanity. Love increases it. Love is radical and revolutionary. Love is welcoming and celebrates the fantastic diversity in a room like this and outside the doors. Love insists on justice, is against tyrants, and is outraged at wrongdoing. Love reveals and revels in the truth. Love asserts itself to make crooked places straight and high places low. And no matter what Paul says, love is not always patient and kind. Not when injustice is in the room. Love will kick a little butt if it has to. But love never ends. Love can heal our souls, and love can heal our world. I had an opportunity earlier this year to be with some of my favorite people in the world, my closet sisters and brothers, the Unitarian Universalists. my closet siblings, because I'm a Christian who believes there's more than one path to God, and we need to get with that. We were talking about what our aspiration was. What would the beloved community look like? And here are some of the things that we said. That love, the beloved community is aspirational. It's transformational. Showing up when it's hard. It's empathy. It's a place where wholeness can happen. A connection with covenant. It takes care of each other while we're taking risks. The beloved community is about respect and loving truth-telling, and is grounded in a trust that allows for vulnerability and showing ourselves. It's a place where one dies to oneself and is reborn to community within community. A place to be healed while others are being healed, and to not act like healing is a zero-sum game. A place where we're savvy enough, I love this one, savvy enough not to nurture and manipulate resentments. The beloved community is embodied, not theoretical, therefore it's messy and stank and imperfect. It includes a commitment to the practice of engaging each other across difference and loving the difference. Diogenes Allen says, love is the unconditional regard for the unique particularity of the other. The unconditional regard for the unique particularity of the other. Maybe it's also the unconditional regard for the unique peculiarity of the other. Maybe we think their strangeness is charming. Well, the beloved community is a place where we meet in our brokenness, but commit to get well. I've been thinking a lot about how love gets tossed around in those codependent love songs, you know? You can't hurry love, no, you just have to wait. It gets to feel like it's a weak word. I love you. You love me. We're nice and we love each other. But I think love is a powerful force. And I think it is the third way, you know? Like one way to deal with the stress and the strife of being exiles in a strange land is to fight, to wage war on each other, to throw bombs at each other, to hurl insults at each other. Another way to deal with it is to flight, to take wing and walk away, regress, step back from one another. But the third way, the loving way, is to seize the moral initiative, to find a creative alternative to violence, to meet force with humor, to expose the injustice in our system, to stand our ground, to recognize our own power, and to use it skillfully and in conjunction with the power of another. To be willing to suffer through the change rather than retaliate. I think if we're going to create the world we want, this third way has to be the ground in which we drive our stake, the bedrock in which we begin to build the structures. I think standing on this ground, on this third way, where love is God and God is love, means non-violent resistance to the powers and principalities. And I think my tradition says, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. I think love is the way and the truth and the life, and no one will get to healing except to walk through love. So as I close, I want to bless you with some words, more words from John. Chad read from the Johannine community. Isn't that good? I can say that. The Johannine community. But no, these words are words from my John, my beloved, not the elder who wrote this text, but the oldest child in our family system. And I'll tell you more about that another time. But in a sermon called Love Lessons, John wrote, "Do not doubt for one moment that every seed of love we sow, every act of compassion, every word of kindness, no matter how small, when gathered together, can set right an outrageous wrong. There is a quiet revolution going on," he said, "conducted by people of goodwill in every village, town, and city on the planet. And every day the wounded are redeemed, the lost are restored, those discouraged find hope, because love persists in holding on to an outrageous dream for a healed world." I am dreaming an outrageous dream that we can create the world we want together. Together, we can want the world we create with love. Beloved partners in a grown-up religion with a loving God, we can fully imagine the world we want to create, one in which our unique particularity or peculiarity is something cherished by those around us, one in which racism, like the bubonic plague, is something that's been cured, something that historians write about, something like how the CDC has some antidote in the closet, that we have the antidote to racism locked up in our hearts, and we can pull it out anytime. I can fully imagine the world we create together, in which humankind is reconciled not only to one another, but to our God and to our planet and to all the furry creatures and to the water. I can fully imagine that we can create the world we want in love together, through love, holding love, in love, because love is God and God is love, and love is the way and the truth, and love is the life. If we will love each other, that's the tense in the text, if we will love each other, then God will take up residence on us, move in with us, redecorate the condo that is us, shack up in us. Okay. If we will love each other, diseases and dis-ease cured. Despair, hope. War, peace. Greed, generosity. Hatred, love. Sorrow, joy. Can you see it? A lofty, aspirational vision enabled with, and the great Reverend Al sings it best, enabled with love and happiness.